Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This is Eisenherz and oh crap, it finally happened. Some influential and well-respected cEDH community members came together to propose a tournament-specific ban list. So allow me to break it down for you. EDH was developed as a casual format, but as the player base grew, people began playing more and more optimized EDH decks with higher and higher win rates. Eventually, this led to the birth of a cEDH community and cEDH tournaments. The philosophy of the format, as so often praised by the rules committee, stands in stark contrast to what cEDH players are making of the format. We all know that. However, the cEDH community is also the fastest growing tournament community in MTG, and without proper management by the RC, in the form of bans or unbans, cEDH tournaments would eventually run into some problems. We've reached a state where games end on turn 1 repeatedly, games take 3+ hours to play out, Grixis color ID is absolutely dominating the meta, stacks and board states become impossible to keep track of by even the most skilled judges, etc. etc. If you are a tournament grinder, you know that the format, when played competitively, has issues that need to be addressed. Unfortunately though, the rules committee, despite endless requests by the ever-growing cEDH community, is straight up refusing to take any actions to manage the format in a way that would help improve cEDH tournaments and the cEDH meta. In fact, the RC appears to have stopped managing anything, as the last relevant bans were Golos and Hullbreacher back in 2021, so 3 years ago. So we are in a state where more and more people are playing EDH competitively in tournaments. These tournaments and the meta are having massive problems with certain cards. Yet the rules committee won't do anything about it and even tells cEDH players to figure it out on their own. So what to do? Accept the RC's authority, keep playing a broken format that without proper management will get more and more broken over time, or take things into our own hands and try to fix the issues? Well, some community members decided that they want to give it a shot. After the Top Deck Invitational, Mikey, the founder of Top Deck, got together with Freedom Waffle, one of the best cEDH players in the world, Data Talk, a data scientist that analyzes all things cEDH, and Lemora, a content creator and meta expert. They discussed some issues with the state of cEDH, they thought about some changes to the existing ban list, and also shared their ideas in some semi-private Discord servers with other community members in order to get more perspective and input. The idea was to slowly adjust the ban list and allowing, not forcing, allowing tournament organizers to use that new ban list for their tournaments, while still being eligible for the 2025 Top Deck Championship Series. So to be very clear, this whole debate right now is a reaction to a qualified panel proposing the idea and a rough draft of a new ban list and Top Deck giving TOs the option to use said ban list in their tournaments. Nothing has actually happened as of yet. As of now, there is no ban list that was officially proposed by the panel. There is merely a draft of a new ban list. What happened was that, in response to the RC's latest announcement to not do anything about cEDH and demanding the cEDH community come up with solutions themselves, the newly formed panel discussed some bans and unbans on semi-private Discord servers. These ideas became public prematurely, which led to this big uproar in the community, and thus the people responsible decided to go public with their idea before it was even fully worked out. As of now, the following bans and unbans are being discussed and proposed by this initial draft. Ban Ristic Study, so that mid-range hell can be combated. Games become easier to follow and judge, cards like OBM get nerfed, and people don't solely rely on study to carry them through games. Unban Fastbond and Leovold in order to have better gameplay options for green. Unban Gifts Ungiven because the reason it was banned is irrelevant in cEDH and it's basically another, arguably better version of Intuition. Also unban Primeval Titan, Rofellos and Coalition Victory because the reasons they are banned are irrelevant in tournament EDH. So currently no commanders have been banned in this draft, but some of the highest performing commanders are being closely looked at by this panel, like Rograk, because it's just an Absurd Turbo enabler that sets the pace for how fast cEDH is as a format and it allows for very early protected wins. Furthermore, cards that prove to be problematic for the logistics of hosting and judging tournaments are being looked at, like Perplexing Chimera because it can make games unfinishable and unjudgeable. Also, these proposed changes are based on cEDH tournament results, the experience of no banlist EDH players, and the logistics of organizing, hosting and judging cEDH tournaments. The goal is not just to diversify the meta, nerf some strategies while buffing other strategies. It is also to make cEDH tournaments function better for everyone involved. And as stated by Mikey, none of this is set in stone and adjustments and discussions are ongoing. Okay, so this proposed tournament ban list is basically a last-ditch effort by a community panel to manage and fix the fastest growing competitive format. Everyone agrees that it would have been better if the RC or even Wizards would do this so that the EDH format could remain undivided. But as it was clearly communicated by the RC that no such thing would happen, here we are. The biggest fear is that this tournament-specific ban list could split cEDH off of EDH and thereby create a new format, Tournament EDH, which wouldn't solve the issues at all. cEDH would still exist with the regular EDH ban list and TEDH would become a separate format. This can happen overnight or just slowly over the course of a few years, but eventually the formats could split apart. And while this is a fair point and has already been discussed at length over the last few years, I don't think it necessarily has to happen. I think we might actually be presented with a false dichotomy here of either accept the EDH ban list or create your own format. A compromise that works out for both sides is certainly possible. We just have to give it a shot and figure it out. Even worse would be a total fragmentation of the format, where TOs everywhere come up with their own house ban list and thereby make it impossible for players to engage in a more widespread global community, prepare for bigger events, etc. etc. If there is no consensus between TOs on what the ban list should look like, or if there is no authority to decide what the ban list should look like, the fragmentation of cEDH into different metas could also lead to TOs competing for players, which would make organizing, hosting and judging events even more bothersome than it already is. Also all very valid concerns, but again I don't think these are inevitable results of a tournament-specific ban list. However, the tournament grinders could also use this opportunity to show what ban list they prefer by signing up or not signing up for different tournaments with different ban lists. Is this an ideal solution? Obviously not, because until things have been figured out, it would lead to a time of great disagreement that could make the game unplayable and lead to players dropping the format. However, and I say this believing in the good intention of the new panel as well as the love of players for the format, if we work together and try this new approach, stay open for change and compromise, give constructive feedback to the people in charge and actively make an effort, we could actually help to slowly and organically adjust the ban list and evolve into a more healthy and balanced format. Alright, so now that you know what's going on and with this more analytical part done, I feel like it's time for a little bit of a rant. The following are my personal and emotionally charged views on what's happened the past few days, so take what I say with a grain of salt. I'll start with the actual Commander RC. In my opinion, the RC for the last few years have been a bunch of lazy cowards that are unable, unwilling and unqualified to manage the largest MTG format and the fastest growing competitive format. They are basically telling all cEDH players to go F themselves and figure it out on their own. And I think what's happening right now is completely the RC's fault. As wonderful as EDH is, and as much as its original philosophy shall be respected, you can't just deny the format is evolving, and ignoring or outright telling off a highly active and influential group of EDH players is toxic and dividing. Implementing and curating an actual thought-out ban list would do little to no harm to casual EDH, while at the same time allowing the competitive side of the format to grow in a healthy tournament environment. It seems to me that the RC is too afraid of their own player base to take any actions in regulating the format. Their fallback to Rule 0 is a handy way to ditch their responsibilities and evade any kind of backlash from the community, and their approach to dealing with the evolution of this format is resembling the power trip of a monarch that has lost all touch with reality. Keep this in mind, and if this experiment blows up in our faces and ends up being the Pandora's box that splits or fragmentizes our format, it will not be because cEDH players are playing EDH competitively, or because the new panel is trying to fix and properly manage the format, but simply because the current Commander Rules Committee is refusing to literally do anything. Let's continue with the new panel. I applaud these guys for making a genuine effort to fix our format in response to the blatant mismanagement and repeated declines by the RC. This panel is made up of people that actually know and love the tournament scene. We have a tournament organizer, a tournament grinder, a content creator / meta expert, a data analyst, and hopefully soon there will also be a high-level judge in this panel. What you're doing right now is necessary, even if it doesn't work out. It's a step long overdue and, although I might be proven wrong, I think it will be a step in the right direction. However, there are two things I think you need to do to make this idea prosper and be a success. First, make me part of this new panel so I can say all the quiet things out loud and take the heat. Second, implement some form of community input like direct democratic voting mechanisms so that the competitive player base doesn't feel left out. Matt from Playing with Power already proposed an interesting idea for that. And finally, I want to address the player base. On one hand, everyone is complaining about games ending turn 1 or taking 3 hours to finish. Everyone is complaining about problematic cards. Everyone wants this or that banned or unbanned, but nobody is doing anything besides yapping. Everyone is looking at the RC for changes, but they are certainly not doing anything to help. On the other hand, now that a genuine attempt is made to at least try something new, everyone is complaining again, imagining the worst possible outcome and spreading more toxicity towards people that are doing something in an attempt to fix things. Like for real, what do you people want? Yes, ideally the RC or Wizards would do something, but they made it very clear that that ain't happening. Yes, ideally the community would come together as one and create a ban list everyone can agree on. But as there is no consensus and nothing like this developed in the last 5 years, it's fair to say that that ain't happening either. Yes, there are problems with the tournament-specific ban list that have been discussed at length these past years. And yes, the result might be catastrophic, but it also just as well might not be. Why, instead of constructively discussing the state of the format and ways to fix it? Why, instead of being open for ideas, changes and compromise? Why, instead of trying things before dismissing them? Why do you keep complaining about everything on all sides? And I'm specifically not talking about people with fair criticism. There are things I disagree with as well, and critique is necessary for adaptation and improvement. I'm talking about those that pretend that this is the beginning of the downfall of all things cEDH. Nothing has really happened yet. There is no need for this outcry, and instead of complaining about everything on all sides, you could see this as a chance to develop this format. And you know what? If you end up being right, if this attempt fails or blows up in all of our faces by splitting the format or fragmenting the competitive scene, we can all collectively simply take a step back and continue playing EDH in the most competitive way and keep playing a wonderful yet blatantly mismanaged format just as we are doing right now. And that's it from me, my 2 cents on this topic. We'll see how this plays out. And while it's not the best solution, I think it is at least a serious attempt to find a solution, with a lot of potential to finally improve the format. So what do you think? Make sure to like, share, comment and subscribe. As always, thanks for watching my videos. This is Eisenherz and auf Wiedersehen.